March 21, 2025, marks the moment the Oval Office silence shattered the existing military status quo forever. In a brief, brutal announcement, President Trump confirms the rumor that defense insiders whispered but never truly believed. Boeing has officially secured the contract for the F-47 NGAD, seizing the crown of American air superiority. This $20 billion injection revitalizes a titan that analysts had prematurely written off as a decaying legacy relic. The F-47 is not merely an iteration of the F-22 or F-35, it is a total philosophical break. We are looking at a $300 million flying data center designed to dominate the tyranny of Pacific distances. While Lockheed Martin spent a decade debugging code, Boeing's Phantom Works went dark and built the future. They weren't building slide decks. They were flying a full-scale demonstrator in the Nevada desert since 2019. The Pentagon's ruthless decision to abandon the Lockheed monopoly was calculated, cold, and strictly about industrial survival. Relying on a single prime contractor created a catastrophic point of failure the Air Force could no longer tolerate. If the Fort Worth production line falls, American airpower effectively ceases to regenerate in a high-intensity conflict. Awarding the F-47 to Boeing forces a critical bifurcation, ensuring two active fighter lines exist simultaneously. Yet, this strategic industrial logic is secondary to the terrifying technical capabilities inherent in the platform itself. The F-47 finally solves the physics problem plaguing fighters since the jet age, the speed-range trade-off. Conventional turbofans are optimized for either fuel efficiency or raw thrust, never both at the same time. The F-47 shatters this binary limitation by utilizing General Electric's revolutionary XA-100 adaptive cycle engines. These power plants employ a three-stream architecture: core for power, bypass for efficiency, and third for thermal management. In the heat of combat, the engine physically reconfigures its internal airflow geometry while in mid-flight. It operates as a high-bypass commercial engine cruising to the target, then snaps into low-bypass fighter mode. The result is a 30% increase in range and 20% more acceleration without adding fuel. This allows the F-47 to strike targets 1,000 nautical miles away and return without aerial refueling. In the Pacific, where tankers are fat targets for Chinese missiles, this self-sufficiency defines victory or paralysis. But extreme range is irrelevant if the aircraft cannot survive the lethal approach through contested airspace. Existing stealth on the F-22 and F-35 is optimized for X-band frequencies used by fire control radars. They remain difficult to target, but low-frequency search radars can still detect their general presence and location. The F-47 introduces broadband stealth, effectively erasing the aircraft across the entire electromagnetic spectrum from enemy sensors. Its tailless flying wing design eliminates vertical stabilizers that act as massive radar reflectors against low-frequency waves. Combined with metamaterial skins that absorb radar energy, the F-47 behaves like a hole in the atmosphere. This invisibility allows it to penetrate anti-access, area denial bubbles that would be suicide for current fifth-generation jets. However, the most dangerous component of the F-47 system isn't the pilot or the advanced airframe. It is the empty space on the wing where a human wingman should theoretically be flying. The F-47 is the first fighter designed from the keel up to quarterback collaborative combat aircraft, or CCAs. These are not dumb drones, they are autonomous, AI-driven extensions of the human pilot's tactical will. The Air Force designates them the YFQ-42A, based on the proven General Atomics Gambit core chassis. A single F-47 will deploy into combat flanked by 4 to 6 of these unmanned systems. The pilot does not fly them, the pilot commands them like a squad leader directs infantry units. Commands like Sector, Scan, Alpha, or Engage Bandit Charlie are executed autonomously by the machine swarm. This creates a force multiplier effect that China's current military doctrine cannot mathematically hope to counter. Instead of killing one expensive jet, the enemy wastes missiles on disposable $10 million drone platforms. The YFQ-42 act as sensors, jammers, or weapons trucks, pushing into the kill zone ahead of the pilot. This is the loyal wingman concept transitioning from theoretical PowerPoints to terrifying metal reality in the sky. But this technological leap was nearly strangled by fiscal reality before it could ever take flight. In May 2024, the program was paused, a bureaucratic euphemism for canceled unless you prove it's vital. The cost per airframe had ballooned, threatening to consume the Air Force's entire modernization budget for the decade. It took a classified intelligence briefing on China's JXD program to force the Pentagon's trembling hand. Intelligence analysts designated the threat JXD, a tailless platform mirroring the NGAD's theoretical performance metrics. Satellite imagery from Chengdu confirmed the PLA Air Force had solved the engine cooling issues plaguing the J-20. This revelation ended the debate. The United States could not afford not times to build the F-47. Internal studies concluded upgrading the F-22 was a dead end due to lack of internal volume. To survive inside the Pacific's first island chain, you need a platform that manages heat like it manages radar. The F-47 achieves this thermal invisibility through a revolutionary deep V air inlet design carved into the upper fuselage. Its exhaust system mixes cool ambient air with the engine plume before it ever leaves the nozzle. This reduces the infrared signature by orders of magnitude, effectively blinding the IRST sensors of enemy fighters. Russian and Chinese pilots relying on heat detection to find stealth aircraft will be staring at empty sky. But the true lethality of the F-47 lies in its open systems architecture, a concept borrowed from Silicon Valley. Unlike the F-35, where software updates took years, the F-47 allows third-party developers to push mission apps in hours. The pilot does not stare at a traditional heads-up display with physical gauges and dials. The entire cockpit is a panoramic, touch-sensitive glass surface, customizable to the mission profile. However, the primary interface is the helmet, which projects a synthetic reality overlay directly onto the pilot's retina. This interface is critical because the pilot is no longer just flying a plane, they are managing a constellation. An AI co-pilot, dubbed Battle Manager, constantly analyzes threats and suggests autonomous drone deployments. It speaks with calm precision. Threat detected bearing 090. Recommend CCA-1 intercept. Authorize. A single voice command or a specific eye movement from the human confirms the kill chain. This is the operationalization of loyal wingman doctrine using Anduril Fury and General Atomics Gambit platforms. These drones are a tritable military shorthand for cheap enough to lose but expensive enough to matter. If a SAM site launches a $2 million interceptor, the F-47 pilot sacrifices a drone to absorb the hit. In its dying moment, the drone maps the enemy radar location and transmits the data back to the mothership. The F-47 then launches an AGM-183 hypersonic missile from 500 miles away to delete the radar site. This standoff capability fundamentally breaks the economic sustainability of modern air defense networks. You cannot win a war if you are trading multi-million-dollar radar systems for cheap, mass-produced drones. Boeing's victory in this contract also signals a massive, permanent shift in manufacturing philosophy. The F-47 is the first fighter built entirely within a digital trinity: digital engineering, manufacturing, and sustainment. Boeing proved they could simulate the entire life cycle of the jet before cutting a single piece of carbon fiber. This digital thread allows the St. Louis facility to ramp up production to 24 aircraft per year by 2030. That is a production pace previously unheard of for complex, low-observable stealth platforms. The contract structure, a cost-plus incentive fee, protects the government from the cost spirals of the past. Under this deal, Boeing eats the overruns, while the American taxpayer pays only for delivered performance. But the implications for the pilot corps are even more profound than the industrial shift. The Air Force is no longer training dogfighters. They are training systems administrators with a license to kill. The physical G-force tolerance that defined the fighter jock era is now secondary to information processing speed. The F-47 is physically capable of 9G maneuvers, but its primary defense is simply not being there. Its advanced electronic warfare suite, the AN/ALQ-260, doesn't just jam radar, it deceives it. It injects false targets into the enemy's network, creating phantom squadrons where none exist. It can convince a Chinese J-20 radar that a flight of F-15S is approaching from the north. While the enemy turns to engage the phantoms, the F-47 slips past undetected from the south. This is cognitive electronic warfare, using AI to learn and adapt to enemy frequencies in real time. Weapons capacity is equally deceptive. The internal bays are significantly deeper than the F-22's. It carries the AIM-260JATM, a weapon with a range that far exceeds the legendary AMRAAM. But perhaps the most critical weapon is the compact laser turret recessed into the fuselage. While not powerful enough to destroy a jet, this high-energy laser is designed for missile defense. It blinds the sensitive seeker head of an incoming heat seeker, sending it drifting harmlessly into the stratosphere. This layered defense, stealth, jamming, drones, and lasers makes the F-47 practically invulnerable in isolation. But wars are not fought one-on-one, and the strategic question remains: can we build enough? China's shipbuilding capacity dwarfs the US, and their ability to field mass is their center of gravity. The F-47 is the American answer to mass, extreme quality that scales through robotics. One pilot, 5 drones. 6 distinct targets suddenly. The numbers game shifts back in America's favor. Yet, the $300 million price tag hides a geopolitical gamble President Trump is making. We must understand the economic warfare underlying this massive procurement strategy. This strategy forces adversaries into a cost-imposition trap they cannot afford to escape. To counter the F-47, Beijing must develop entirely new sensor networks, bleeding their defense budget dry. It is an asymmetric economic lever. We spend billions to force them to spend trillions on defense. Domestically, the program acts as a massive industrial defibrillator for the entire American aerospace sector. The supply chain spans 45 states, creating a virtually unbreakable political firewall against future cancellation. Specialized composites from Alabama, avionics from California, engines from Ohio, this is the industrial base mobilized. This distributed manufacturing ensures that even a kinetic strike on one facility cannot halt production entirely. The timeline is aggressive. First flight of the production model in 2028, with initial operating capability by 2029. Critics call this impossible. Boeing points to the digital twin data that has already validated the flight envelope. The F-47 is not entering the unknown. It is simply verifying what the digital world has already proven. Strategically, the F-47 integrates into a larger kill web alongside the B-21 Raider. While the B-21 penetrates deep to strike command centers, the F-47 sweeps the skies of enemy interceptors. They share target data instantly over directional, unjammable data links that no adversary can break. This symbiosis creates a sanitized corridor through the most hostile, missile-dense airspace on Earth. The Air Force plans to procure at least 200 F-47s to replace the F-22 fleet 1-for-1. But with the drone multiplier, the effective combat force is over 1,000 distinct aim points. This saturation capability is the only mathematical solution to the tyranny of distance in the Pacific theater. The F-22 was the ultimate duelist. The F-47 is the ultimate fleet commander. It represents the end of the dogfight era and the beginning of systemic air dominance. The pilot is no longer the tip of the spear. The pilot is the hand that throws it. As China fields the J-20 and develops the JXD, the window of American supremacy was closing. The F-47 announcement kicks that door back open and wedges it shut with American titanium. It is a message sent at Mach 2 from the Oval Office to every capital in the world. The United States will not cede the high ground. We will not accept parity. We demand overmatch. The $300 million price tag is the insurance premium for the next 50 years of global trade. Without air superiority, surface fleets are targets and ground armies are refugees. The F-47 guarantees that when the balloon goes up, the sky belongs to the United States Air Force. This is not just a plane, it is the physical manifestation of absolute political will. Boeing's redemption, the Air Force's future, and the balance of power in the Pacific now rest on these wings. As the first F-47s roll off the line in St. Louis, the world is watching closely. Our adversaries are recalculating their risk assessments. Our allies are breathing a sigh of relief. And the pilots who will fly them are preparing for a new, terrifying kind of warfare. A warfare where speed, stealth, and artificial intelligence converge to create the deadliest weapons system in history. The pause is over, the program is live, the dominance is absolute. If you want to understand the technology that shapes the battlefield, you are in the right place. We don't just cover the news, we analyze the architecture of modern conflict. Subscribe to Jet Insight for the intelligence briefings the mainstream media misses. Hit the notification bell to stay ahead of the curve. Leave a comment below. Is the price tag justified for total air dominance? Or is the era of the manned fighter over? Let the debate begin. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon. This is Jet Insight, signing off.